Just saw a wild statistic that said 70% of couples today are meeting through online dating. Over 70%. Whereas when I was in my 20s, the number one thing that would lead to pair bonding was acquaintances, family, friends, proximity, in other words, classmates, people that you would actually met in the physical world and were part of your life already. You know, there was a lot of commonality, and people that knew you also already knew of the person you had decided to date or marry. And which I think is much healthier. I have a blog post where I talk about something I've termed triadic relationships, where, at least from my observation, in order for a relationship to actually persist till death do us part, there have to be other external agents that are part of your relationship. And I think the most common successful triadic relationship is the one where the husband and wife are both devoted to the same faith and worship the same God. Because what this creates is an external authority that you are both beholden to. And you hold each other to account through this third party, for lack of a better word. Now, in the past, not only did couples have that to help hold them together, but there was also the community at large with whom you shared friendships and relationships with each other. So it wasn't just you marrying another person, it was your family marrying the other family in a way. And so there was just so much more extrinsic motivation to holding the pairing together. There was all of this external reinforcement and glue to hold relationships together. And today, it should be no surprise that most relationships fail. You know, we only have the statistics about marriages failing, but we don't have the statistics about people that come together and cohabitate and essentially live as if they were married without actually formally doing the paperwork. Those statistics aren't tracked, right? And so the rate of, as the nature of pair bonding has become more atomized and it's just strangers meeting each other whom have no connection, historical, cultural, religious, social connection with the other. As it has become more atomized, the nature of pair bonding, it should be no surprise that those relationships have increasingly become very fragile and fizzle out and fail. And fundamentally, I think the reason for what that is exposing is the fact that the desire to pair bond to begin with is an irrational impulse and desire. From men, it's more of an outward vector, and for women, it's more of an inward vector. Men feel attracted to the woman, women feel attracted to the man's attraction, and it's and then that entire mechanism essentially hijacks your mind using your hormones and makes you idealize the other person, and you feel like you guys are both meant to be together. You know, the whole falling in love and butterflies and all that stuff. which is not is more illusory than real, right? I think most couples learn this very quickly, and then their love matures after that, hopefully. But there's very little motivation to allow the love to mature into the next phase if there's no accountability, if there's no external observation of your relationship or judgment of your relationship failing. And so it should really come to us as no surprise. And therefore, I would almost say that if you want to ensure more success, more long-term success in a romantic relationship, don't date a stranger. Put down the dating apps. Date someone that has been part of your upbringing or your family life. Now, that may sound like an ick to a lot of people today, because simultaneously to the atomization of the world, people have become increasingly disenfranchised with their own family. There's been a whole sort of de-foo movement, and this was a movement that was kind of spurred on by a man named Stefan Molyneux. I think he created the term de-foo, which stands for distancing yourself from your family of origin. And there's been a whole grievance movement targeting parents and people blaming their traumas on their own parents and their own upbringing, despite the fact that modern kids have had probably the least traumatizing upbringing of any time period in human history. And why does that happen? Well, that happens because when you're living comfortably and you don't have any real suffering occurring in your life, you will find something to suffer about. And that in and of itself is a kind of a self-inflicted wound. And the problem with self-inflicted wounds is that you can't really heal them. A physical wound, the real thing that happened, you can really address it head on and deal with it. But one that you fabricate and generate yourself and gin up is by its nature illusory, and therefore it's much harder to dismantle. Illusion. And that's not to say that those people aren't actually suffering. Yes, the suffering is terrible, but a lot of it is self-inflicted. So there's just a lot of things that are working against us as a species in the West for pair bonding to be successful. What I would say, though, is that if you are going to date a stranger and consider pair bonding with a stranger, it's got to be very important for both families to start coming together to meet the other parents, for her parents to meet your parents, etc., and start to build an extrinsic network that is going to be part of your life as a couple. And again, people don't want this. People want to be on their own. They want to be isolated and just not have the presence of even their own family as part of their life. They think that they can keep it together, just themselves. And some can, to be fair. People who are extremely compatible can. And especially if they have a shared vision or a shared faith, or they profoundly share something in common that they both, as an external thing, can use as a guiding light for them as a couple. Most often than not, this is faith, God, religion. Maybe they both decide to start a venture together, a business. They're both passionate about the same thing. But there's got to be that triadic element in order for relationships to thrive, in my opinion. It's no surprise that the atomization of the pair bonding process has led to things like Tinder being the #1 dating app, which fundamentally is not even about dating. It's about hookups and just one-night stands. So it's become just completely hedonistic now. We've completely lost sight of what marriage really is and the purpose of it, and now it's just sex. That's really all people are looking for, at least men. And for women, it's resource, lifestyle. And you can't, given where society's at, it's hard to imagine that things would be any different. There's a reason in the past there were so many guardrails and so many rules and protocols and cultural norms. They were all put in place because we knew that without those guardrails in place, we would just go off and be wild. But on the bright side, see, I'm in favor of freedom. I like people to have the choice to stray. On the bright side, people are more likely to show who they really are. Whereas before, when there were lots of guardrails and things were much more conservative and formal, it was very easy to fall prey to a wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, that is still the case, but perhaps less so. A man and a woman is more likely to just really present themselves as they really are. Maybe not in their speech and in their words, but definitely in their actions. So if you have the ability to assess someone's actions, to really see how they've been behaving, what they've been doing the past 3 years, then you know really who they are. And I think what will happen is a kind of separation of the wheat from the chaff, where the hedonists will be getting together with other hedonists, and people who are truly committed to the idea of family and lineage will orient themselves to that. But still, there are a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing out there. There are still a lot of people who want to have their cake and eat it, and so you still have to be careful. But I say, add fuel to this fire, because the more permissive we become, the more free we become, the more people will show their true colors. And I think that's a good thing. That way you can make decisions with more discerning and clarity as to who to bring into your life. And really, these days, all you have to know to really see what a person is just look at their social media posts. Find all the different ways in which they convey information online, and that'll give you a very clear sense for who they are. So, that's my message to you all today. Tread carefully out there in the dating world. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.